I gained consciousness. The walls were the familiar pale green, light brown accents in the form of wooden liners and frames that surrounded the open crawl space and doors. There were 3 doors to speak of. One on the far left was the walk-in closet that my parents kept their formal wear or other professional clothing that they needed as a marketing expert and branch manager. My parents' room was larger than the living room of my current apartment, with a ceiling that sloped upward to a peak point in the ceiling. I woke up staring at the open door out to the banister, overlooking the small foyer. I felt a strange sense of anticipation looking in that direction. Like if I made any sort of move to convince whatever was watching me just out of eyesight, I wasn't awake. But a moment later, I could hear it from up above. Its absurdly fast, labored breathing was emanating from the ceiling. It was only getting more eager with each passing second. It stopped when I couldn't control my breathing anymore from the anxiety the situation gave me. I froze when I realized it had stopped. And I decided I would look my fate in the eyes. And what horrible fucking eyes they were, too. Not so much eyes as they were holes cut out of a face. Deep, dark pits containing a small red glowing iris or pupil. I really couldn't tell. It was matched with a wide cut into its face that could only be described as a painted smile. I say cut because the eyes and mouth were obviously added to a round pink orb of flesh that acted as the head of the entity. The eye sockets and lips were jagged and had a deep red outline with the occasional drip of what I could only assume was blood. What was worse was the fact that it was actually taking attempts to blend in as a household animal. It was trying its damnedest to look like a cross between a Siberian husky and a house cat. Pointed ears and sort of elongated parts of the pink. It wasn't successful. The proportions were just off enough in the longer arms and shorter legs than what should have been normal. It had a tail, but it was obvious by the way it moved and the thick, viscous red liquid that dripped from the stinger at the end. And I wanted nothing to do with whatever the hell this thing was. The paws of this creature had these long, solid, prehensile appendages that slid into the drywall with threatening ease. Not quite fingers either, as fingers had limitations. They were more like sharp tentacles that could move very independently or in sync with each other depending on what the beast wanted. When it looked at me, maybe into me is a better word, I couldn't help but think of the game Keep Away. The rules of this version had a very specific object in mind to keep away from this creature. I saw it shift its sights away from my eyes into my chest, my heart beating harder and faster as I realized what I was keeping away from it. It somehow put things in my head, a set of rules. One, it won't go full speed. It would only walk slowly towards me, with one stipulation, that'd be able to pounce forward after giving about 3 seconds of warning. I'd best be able to tell when they were coming. 2, I wasn't allowed to run, scream, or fight it directly back. Otherwise the rules were null and it would just take my heart as it wished. I could only walk, roll, and crawl. I could jump for rule number 3, but only at the last second before it bounces. It said my timing better be good if I were to jump. And number 4, this game must last for 5 minutes, or until I lose my heart from my chest. Short and sweet. Number 5, and the most important rule, do not stay in one room for more than a minute. It didn't want to get caught up in a loop. And if it did for too long, it would just take its prize. And that was it. Suddenly the game began. I thought quick and started counting the seconds in my head. began to press its body into the ceiling. I started moving, rolled off the bed onto the ground, and looked back up at it. It was just staring at the space I was before. Another 2 seconds, I was on my feet. And just as I stood, I saw its body spring from the ceiling inhumanly fast. The force of its jump shattered the frame of the bed and sent foam and fabric from the mattress as it ended up ruined. This thing really was playing a game with me. It really could just kill me without a second thought if it really wanted to. And I don't know if that's worse or better than playing its game with it. But I don't feel like not having my heart beating in my chest. So I decided to play along. I kept quiet, focusing solely on moving away from it, where it wouldn't touch me, and keeping track of the seconds. It seemed to care about obstacles, walking around objects in its path to give me a fair advantage, I can only assume. Though moving over the destroyed bed was one of my mistakes. As it climbed on top of it much easier than I could walk across it, I was close to getting caught, an inch away from my beating chest. When it stopped and looked through me again. That was about 30 seconds in. Quickly, I rolled to the side, and it shot forward to the back wall yet again, leaving a hole in the drywall. I didn't try to walk over anything else any longer, as I figured that naturally I could walk faster than it was allowing itself to go. I walked it in a circle around the broke-down bed, now shifting towards the center of the room. I saw it stop again. 30 more seconds. The bounces are set on a timer, which means it was a full minute. I had to get out of there, so as quick as I could walk, I got just outside the door. 3rd second. I tried it. I jumped to the left of the door. Right wasn't a good option, as a set of stairs would have put me on the landing, and I wasn't about to do that yet. It shot through the banister, arched downward towards the front door, and crashed through it. I lost sight of it for about 10 seconds before it walked through the archway and up to the wall I was looking down from, over a particularly broken down banister. I thought for a moment, then got an idea. I kicked the remaining part of the banister, separating it from the wall, while doing my best to keep the bars upright. I reached the top of the wall and started to climb over the banister for leverage for its next pounce. I walked backwards into my room, watching as it lowered its body onto the railing, and watched as it snapped away and plummeted down again. Its legs kicked on the way down, sending the piece of the banister it was standing on into the tile floor below. All it did was slow its fall slightly, as once again it hit the ground. I closed my door and started to panic as I realized I was also starting to move slower and slower with each passing pounce. I did the best I could to prepare for the worst, opening the attic door to my closet. It came straight through my bedroom door. In the time I did that, I was able to move my bed to the center of the room, and was able to loop it a time or two before it fixated at me again. I backed straight to the window I had opened. I made my way quickly to the attic, watching as it launched itself into the street below. By the time I was there, I was hardly able to keep up a nice walking speed, and was scared that the next time I wouldn't be able to get out when I saw it again. It didn't take too long, as it seemed to have just jumped into my window again and walked up to the attic, same pace as always. Now, I was walking at the same speed as it, and lucky me, I was able to stall for just long enough for the final pounce out of this room. Unlucky me, I had nowhere else to go. I thought I was a goner, until I felt the floor give way from under me. The ceiling was only drywall, and the floor to my room was already pretty weak from where it had jumped again. So none of it supported my weight for too long. I fell hard onto the garage floor and was feeling every ounce of that pain as I heard a crash come from the roof of my house, or I could only assume it broke through to my backyard. All I could do was lay there and accept my fate. In about 30 seconds, I was going to be killed from this thing. I timed it in my head, and I had about another 30 seconds or so before I was able to charge through the garage wall and take me as I lay. Sure enough, that 30 seconds came by, and I was face to face with that monster. It walked towards me, and broken body and placed its hand over my chest before pausing, then just patted my chest. I heard as it walked back out through the hole. I didn't count those 3-second periods it charged its jumps. One jump every 30 seconds. Reset upon landing, it seems, not from the start of the charge. It wasn't specific about that. I got 3 before 1, 2 before 2, 2 before 3, 2 before 4, and once before it hit 5. 9 times it charged for 3 seconds. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 23, 26, 29. And it took 1 second to get across my garage, place its hand over my chest, and touch me. 5 minutes. I thought I was dead. And upon having that revelation, my eyes shot open as I lay in my bedroom of my apartment. A dream. No, a nightmare. One of the many I've had. This is Sir Soothing Voice. And this whole story wasn't made up by anyone else but me. I had this nightmare about 2 to 3 months ago, I believe. I haven't seen this entity again since, but I feel as though it was satisfied somehow. Lucky me. I'm writing this and talking about this because I have a lot of nightmares. They catch me during any time of my life, and I have forgotten more than I could ever remember to write down. Right now, there are about 3 that are pretty strong in my head. This one I just told you, and the other 2 that I'm going to be writing on in the future. Now, with this project, something I'm going to dub Night Terror Storytime, I don't just want my night terrors. I want to hear from you. I want to see what you guys got to go through. Just so y'all know that you're not alone and having these bad dreams. The topic of the night terror can be very real, like a nightmare about work or life that you feel comfortable in sharing. Or it can be a monster like mine. Or whatever. If you feel up to it, submit your own night terrors or even your life experiences, and I'll narrate them here. You can submit those things on my Twitter through, I think I have direct messages open, but if I don't, I'm going to turn them on for this. My dog's freaking out. So I have to go take care of her. Thank you for listening to this Night Terror Storytime. Try and get some rest.